They say in politics, liberals are the gas pedal and conservatives are the brakes. And I'm generally with the gas pedal, but not if we're driving off a cliff. On the trans issue, America is no ands, ifs, or buts about it, absolutely alone in the world now, an outlier country. Last month, England's National Health Service announced that there's not enough evidence to support the safety or clinical effectiveness of puberty blockers for third graders, and that they were going to stop fumbling around with children's privates, because that's Prince Andrew's job.
For years, the woke left have idolized Canada as their sparkling utopia, a liberal wonderland that America should supposedly emulate. But not everyone is sold on that frosty illusion, and Bill Maher is definitely one of them. In a fiery episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, the comedian torched the maple syrup myth with a no-holds-barred monologue. Buckle up, this one burns.
Canada was where every woke white college kid wearing pajama pants outdoors who'd had it up to here with America's racist patriarchy dreamt of living someday. I mean, besides Gaza. There's only one problem with thinking everything's better in Canada. It's not. Not anymore, anyway. Last year, Canada added 1.3 million people, which is a lot in 1 year, the equivalent of the U.S. adding 11 million migrants in 1 year. And now they're experiencing a housing crisis even worse than ours. And we're sleeping in.
Right out of the gate, Maher tears into the woke left's sugar-coated fantasy of Canada. First on his hit list, the country's housing catastrophe, driven by wide-open immigration policies that the American left treats like some golden ticket. In reality, Canada is staring down a staggering housing deficit of 3.5 million units by 2030, a crisis so dire it makes California look like a real estate paradise. To make matters worse, more than 1 in 5 Canadian households are already spending over 30% of their income just to keep a roof overhead. Yet, the woke crowd still parades Canada as the promised land. Maher doesn't just mock that illusion, he burns it to the ground.
The price of a home here is $346,000. In Canada, converted to US dollars, it's $487,000. If Barbie moved to Winnipeg, she wouldn't be able to afford her dream house, and Ken would be working at Tim Hortons.
Canada's troubles run far deeper than the liberal cheerleaders ever dared to admit, and the cracks in their so-called utopia are spreading faster than they'd like anyone to notice. Remember, Bill Maher isn't some right-wing firebrand waving a conservative flag. He's a lifelong liberal, once proudly embraced by the very crowd he's now skewering. That's what makes his criticism sting so much. When a guy like Maher starts calling out Canada, it's not just a crack in the fantasy, it's a full-blown collapse. But here's where it gets interesting. Maher isn't ranting just to make noise. He's drawing a mirror to America with that trademark smirk, essentially asking, is this really the model you want to follow? Because if Canada is the blueprint, then America better brace for sky-high housing costs, shattered promises, and a mountain of regret. And the kicker? Maher's just getting started.
Because of mortgage debt, Canada has the highest debt-to-GDP ratio of any G7 nation. I don't know what that means, but it sounds bad. So does their vaunted healthcare system, which ranks dead last among high-income countries in access to primary healthcare and ability to see a doctor in a day or two. And it's not for lack of spending. Of the 30 countries with universal coverage, Canada spends over 13% of its economy on it, which is a lot of money for free healthcare.
Is Bill Maher confessing to a political conversion? Has he suddenly crossed over to the right? Not quite. What we're seeing is the inevitable result of drifting too far into leftist la-la land. When the left becomes so unhinged that even lifelong liberals can't stomach it anymore, the pendulum naturally swings back. Many of them don't embrace conservatism out of newfound love. They simply wake up to the chaos around them. Take Joe Rogan, for example. Once celebrated as the rebellious, counterculture voice of progressives, he's now branded right-wing for daring to question woke orthodoxy. Or Elon Musk, a man who builds electric cars and rockets, hardly a conservative resume, yet somehow, he's been labeled center-right just for rejecting the madness. Maher's following the same trajectory. He hasn't changed his beliefs. The left has sprinted so far off the cliff that anyone standing still now looks conservative by comparison.
Look, I'm not saying Canada still isn't a great country. It is, but Those aren't paradise numbers. If Canada was an apartment, the lead feature might be America adjacent. And if America was a rental car, Canada would be America or similar. And again, honestly, Canada, I'm not saying any of this because I enjoy it. I don't, because I've always enjoyed you. But I need to cite you as a cautionary tale to help my country. And the moral of that tale is, yes, you can move too far left. And when you do, you wind up pushing the...
Frankly, this is what happens when society decides that everyone can invent their own pronouns, and the rest of us are forced to play along. The result? Chaos and confusion. Take, for instance, the students who couldn't even tell what gender their own teacher was. One day, he walks in wearing a dress, demands to be treated as a woman, and insists everyone applaud the performance. The next day, he's back to being a man, as if none of it ever happened. The students are left bewildered, wondering who exactly is standing in front of them. This isn't education, it's theater, and not the kind that enlightens or inspires, but the kind that leaves kids more confused than informed. When identity becomes a moving target, clarity disappears, and all that's left is a tangle of contradictions no one can make sense of.